Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I hope you all are staying safe with your families at such testing times with the epidemic. My name is Suhail Ismail, and I'm the sales director at OneLogin looking after the Asia Pacific region, and I'll be your host for today. So in terms of the topic for today's webinar, we have decided to talk about how IT security teams can enable their remote workforce with secured identity and access management. The reason why we have picked this topic is because all of us have been taken aback by the rate at which the ongoing crisis has escalated, and also the kind of economic impact it's left on millions of people around the world, right? So given its unprecedented nature, we all have been working from home for quite some time now. And due to this, what we're seeing is that IT teams across industries are really scrambling in terms of how they can have their employees securely access their business critical applications remotely. And that's a huge gap they need to address as basically their employees are now dealing with passwords being keyed in from locations outside the corporate network. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. By way of introduction, my name is Suhail Ismail, and I'm the sales director at OneLogin, looking after the Asia Pacific region. I've been with OneLogin for almost 2 years, and I work very closely with the local partners and customers. My co-presenter for today is Mrinal Srivastava from GS Labs. GS Labs is one of OneLogin's key partner in India and the rest of Asia Pacific region. So Mrinal, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Suhail. Hi all, I am Mrinal Srivastava. I work as solution architect. My role involves helping our customers and prospects in defining their IAM roadmap and solving their IAM and security related business challenges in sustainable and cost-effective way.
Regarding today's agenda, here's a quick overview. For those of you not familiar with OneLogin, we've got a slide about our corporate overview to make sure you understand who we are as an organization. We'll also talk through identity management as well, because some of you guys may be familiar with single sign-on or multi-factor authentication, but identity management is a lot more than that. And ultimately, within that IAM spectrum, the key piece is access. And I really think controlling access is the foundation of security when it comes to identity and access management. So we'll get you up to speed on what IAM is. And once you get up to speed, we'll then walk you through on how you can apply that to enable secure and easy work from home for your employees. Mrinal will then discuss some of the most common use cases and the business scenarios which he sees and hears from customers on a daily basis. And followed that, we'll also give you a short demo of our platform so that you get a glimpse of how the solution works behind the scenes. Today, we've also got a nice little promotion for your organization, and towards the end of this webinar, we've also got some exciting prizes to be won as well. We also have set aside some time to answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to leave your questions in the chat window, and we will answer them at the end. So before we give you an overview of OneLogin and its solution capabilities, I'd like to hone in on some of the challenges that many organizations are faced with today. The perimeter security is dissolving away, and now with the current COVID-19 situation, this problem has only gotten worse. So it's again going back to the question which a lot of IT managers are today scrambling in terms of how do they get their employees the right level of access to their applications and yet have their employees be productive on a daily basis. So without an IAM solution, you're going to have multiple logins, your users are going to have multiple logins to various applications, multiple MFAs, and possibly your users are going to have a bunch of browser tabs opened up. So it's not really going to be secure for your users when it comes to accessing their applications. And when you think about all the data breaches that we hear in the press, the attack vector is due to compromised credentials. And the business of identity and access management, which OneLogin is in, a huge portion of that is protecting those credentials. So think of us as the front door. Think of us as someone which is the app of all apps. So from a security standpoint, as you can see, from the screen, there's quite a few applications which we use in some way or the other on a daily basis. Apps like Salesforce or AWS or ServiceNow. Or Box. We use apps like these on a daily basis. So the biggest challenge that IT admins face today is from a security standpoint, which is that they don't have visibility in terms of who's accessing what applications at what time of the day. So a tool like OneLogin is really going to give you that level of control, and more importantly, it's going to enable your employees to ensure they have an added layer of security, like a multi-factor authentication, which doesn't really let the bad actor infiltrate your network. Essentially, through MFA, you are saying who you are in terms of what you have, like a push notification from your smartphone, or putting an SMS that you get, or putting an OTP in the form of an MFA, which you get via email. So there's multiple options which OneLogin can provide in the form of MFA. Now, from a security standpoint, or rather from a productivity standpoint, we see a lot of employees having the need to submit a help desk ticket when they forget a password to their web applications. Now, this productivity gets impacted on a huge scale. Think about a scenario where you've got someone in the order processing team not able to access their application anymore because they've forgotten their password, and now they've submitted a help desk ticket, but unless and until they hear back from the help desk team, it's going to take more than half an hour, or sometimes even hours, which means the productivity of that employee is going to get impacted, and so is the reputation of one's organization as well. So a lot of factors play into this when it comes to these manual efforts involving password reset. So the way OneLogin approaches the situation is by enabling those users with some level of self-service capabilities to reset the password. And that takes a huge workload off your help desk team, because now they can go and concentrate on other aspects of your IT tech stack. And finally, from a compliance standpoint, many organizations struggle in terms of maintaining an audit trail of what their employee login activity looks like. So this is really key to a lot of organizations as they get audited. So a solution like OneLogin maintains that audit trail for you on a daily basis. So we have a raw data feed that you can export in a JSON format onto a SIM tool like a Splunk or a Sumo Logic or an ELK. So that's a really nice way of seeing any anomalous activity that's happening within your network. So these are some of the challenges that we see in the post-perimeter world, and how OneLogin approaches these challenges in terms of solving it. So a little bit about OneLogin in terms of who we are as an organization. So OneLogin was started over 11 years ago in the US. The original concept for a solution like OneLogin came through when our founders were working for Zendesk and saw a lot of help desk tickets come in. And basically that's when the explosion to cloud was just starting, and it was becoming a bigger problem. And today, over 10 years later, we've grown to over 2,500 customers across all industry verticals. And you can identify some of these logos down here. So we've been very fortunate to having worked with some really innovative organizations over the last few years. In terms of employee size, we've got over 300 employees around the globe, and our Asia Pacific headquarters is based out of Australia here in Sydney. We're funded by venture capitalists, and around this time last year, we had a Series D funding of $100 million. We're also in the visionary space of the Magic Quadrant for identity and access management. And what's worth mentioning is that OneLogin has been a consistent top performer in the Gartner Peer Insights survey as well. Moving on to the next slide. Now, let's go ahead and have a look at OneLogin's platform in terms of what the architectural framework looks like. So first thing I want to explain is how OneLogin thinks about deploying our solution. Now, the buzzword in the industry is identity and access management. And when I say that, I want to break down that buzzword in terms of what it means. So when we say identity, OneLogin is thinking of where the different users that you will be using OneLogin with, where those users live, and how do you get them into the OneLogin cloud directory. It's really important that OneLogin has the cloud directory, because when you have this cloud directory over here, it's basically an aggregation of all different users within your company. And those users could be your casual staff, your customers, your supply chain, basically your suppliers. And all these different types of users need to get inside OneLogin's cloud directory in some way or the other. And once they're inside our solution, our cloud directory then allows for access management. And what access management means is the first thing that we think of when one thinks of access management, the first thing that we can think of is single sign-on. And that single sign-on is predominantly achieved through an authentication protocol called SAML, S-A-M-L. So that's one way of authenticating users. There's other ways we can authenticate users as well. For example, we support a more modern authentication protocol called OpenID Connect or OIDC. We also have a robust API for authentication. Then we also have a virtual LDAP endpoint, and we also have a radius endpoint as well, which can be used for managing VPN or Wi-Fi devices. So all of these are different ways we can use single sign-on to get to applications. The exact method of which is basically that's invisible to end users, or it's discrete. So all the end users know is that they're going through OneLogin, but for you as someone who manages the tool, as someone within the IT team or in the security team, in the back end, you would understand that OneLogin is using a variety of authentication protocols to provide single sign-on. And that's how the solution comes together. In addition to this, what we're also doing is roles-based access control, or RBAC. Because OneLogin is not just used for single or a handful of applications, most of our customers use us for across every single of their business units. So specific applications can be used for specific groups of users. So someone in HR team would get access to applications which are completely different from someone in the finance or in the sales teams. So that essentially defines roles-based access control in terms of who should have access to what apps. What we also do have is policies. And policies allow OneLogin to say when employee A signs into OneLogin, they use multi-factor authentication. When employee B signs in, they can use another kind of MFA. And when employee C signs in, they're only allowed to log in through the corporate network. So all of these form the OneLogin core, which is essentially the single sign-on piece, the multi-factor authentication piece, the policies, and roles-based access control. These are all core OneLogin features, and these are all the main reasons why companies come to us and get our assistance in defining their security strategy, their identity strategy, and really going ahead and strengthening that security posture. I also wanted to highlight a few other features here. I'll start with the bottom left, and that's the machine login capability. Now, with OneLogin, you have the ability to join those individual machines to OneLogin's cloud directory. So it's basically another extension of the slide that you saw earlier. So what we can say here is basically, for example, your computer. When you log to your machine, you're using your OneLogin credentials to log into your laptop or to get inside your laptop. So you can ensure that if you're deploying OneLogin to a remote workforce, given the COVID-19 situation, you can ensure that when they log into their computer, they're actually going to be using their corporate username and password as opposed to no password at all. It really makes it easier in terms of managing those remote workforce employees when they're joining the company without coming to the office. The last one on the bottom right is user provisioning. And what you can have here is that we have the ability to roll out OneLogin very quickly and very easily with roles-based access control, which you saw earlier. So what we know is that everybody should have access to Office 365. Let me give you an example here. Say, for example, if I'm a new employee, I'm supposed to join the company on Monday next week. Ideally, the service desk team or the help desk team of that organization would go and create my employee user account inside Active Directory. And once that's done, from there on, they would manually go on all the downstream applications like a Dropbox or a Zoho or your Salesforce, and they would create my user account inside those applications. With a tool like OneLogin, because these applications support user provisioning, we are automatically going to create, update, and delete users inside those applications. So that whole aspect of employee onboarding and employee offboarding is completely automated. And that's the whole aspect of core capabilities of OneLogin access management. Moving on to the next slide. Now, I'd really like to talk about how we can help and enable your employees given the current COVID-19 situation as they're working from home. So let's think about a traditional network setup. When regardless of which office or location you're looking at, this is what it would look like when your remote employees are accessing their applications working from home. You might have a system where you're eventually VPNing into your corporate network. That's one way of getting into your applications that sit behind your firewall, or you might even use Active Directory for authentication. So you might use a combination of these tools to get to your applications. But what would it look like when you've got OneLogin in here? And this is what I want to show you. So when you're using OneLogin, the main thing to know is that OneLogin has a portal that allows you to use single sign-on. and MFA to all your different applications within that portal. The main thing you should know about that OneLogin portal is that because it's a single way to get to all your tools, because it's the only way to get to a tool like an Office 365 or a Zoom, and because it's the only way to initiate a remote desktop session, that eventually enables you to apply a two-factor authentication in one spot. So think of a scenario where you're deploying a video conference tool like a GoToMeeting, for example, and now all of a sudden you've deployed the tool, but now you're not sure how to roll it out, or maybe you're not even sure if it's secure in the first place. That's when you can go ahead and use OneLogin to make that rollout process much more easier and much more secure. So now there's only one place to get to Zoom, or only one place to get on Office 365 or a GoToMeeting and all your other different applications. So you know, from a security point of view, you're also using a single MFA as well. So with this entire combination, you know that your employees are going to get to their applications with one login, as it's in the name, with one username and one password. They get to go and consume all their apps. And with also one single MFA, they have that streamlined security posture. So whether you're accessing a cloud app like a Zoom or Office 365, you know that the method of authentication into these tools is secure. So that's point number one. The other thing you should know is, let's say you're setting up your VPN, or hopefully once we are out of this COVID-19 situation, or maybe even if you're setting up your Wi-Fi networks at offices once we're out of this situation. Either way though, what you may want to do is that you'd want to add 2FA to it. So what OneLogin has is a radius endpoint, and that radius endpoint supports a variety of protocols. And that allows OneLogin to talk to those different endpoints. So before I hand over to Mrinal to share the use cases and demo, I want to close off by showing you this slide. On the left-hand side, this is essentially what it looks like when you don't have a solution like OneLogin. So this is going back to the rollout scenario, which I spoke earlier. When you think about applications that you're using, there's probably different apps that not everybody gets access to. So think back to the roles-based access control. Think back to the work from home story, which we spoke about. Not everybody gets access to everything. And when you're trying to roll out a few different applications to a workforce, maybe this person on the top needs Zoom. Maybe these other people need Dialpad. Maybe these other people need Office 365, and finally, everybody in the company needs a VPN. But the main thing to know is that with OneLogin on the right side, as you see, it's a lot more easier. All your employees now get to go through a centralized branded portal of your organization. They go in there, get to punch in their username and their password, and they get to consume their applications. All the applications are published in one portal, and that's how they would start their day eventually. So this is what the desired end state would look like once you've got OneLogin deployed within your network. So now I would like to hand over to Mrinal to walk you through some of the common scenarios and the use cases that customers come to us for, and eventually he will also share the demos related to each of those use cases. Over to you, Mrinal.
Thanks, Suhail, for taking us through the platform. It really gives a good overview about how OneLogin can solve the challenges around post-parameter world and can enable remote workforce to perform their day-to-day business in a secured way. GS Lab is actively involved in many IAM deployments across the globe, and today I would like to talk on some specific business use cases which we are hearing a lot in recent times from our prospects and customers, specifically in APAC region. So without wasting time, let me jump on those. Talking about the business challenges in recent times, first thing come into your mind is about how to enable applications for secure sign-on. And I'm pretty sure that many of you are struggling with this. One of the major challenge we are hearing with current situation amidst pandemic is around providing secure login into the systems and applications. Since almost everyone is working from home, and in today's era, everyone has access to some roughly 10 plus applications, it is becoming very challenging for IT security teams to ensure secure logins. And I'm particularly aware that many people are using their personal devices. Challenge is not only with user that they have to remember a lot of username and passwords. Challenge is with IT teams as well, how to manage these many application identities, password policies, etc. One of the solution you can think that my applications are integrated with AD. But in today's scenario and post-perimeter world, you know it is not solving your problem. Since people are outside the corporation network and accessing corporate applications, and that too in many cases from personal devices, adding an extra layer of security is essential. Let me take you through how OneLogin solves this challenge. I will demonstrate in more details which Suhail talked about through one of his slides. It will also give you a glimpse about OneLogin user interface. So here you can see that I am accessing my OneLogin portal. So OneLogin offers a lot of flexibility in terms of customization and branding. It starts from URL itself. You can have your own subdomain in the URL. Sometimes customers say that they don't want OneLogin branded URL because the application protected by OneLogin are actually accessed by their partners and customers as well. And that is perfectly fine. We can have your own URL as well, say for example gslab.com. We have implemented it for one number of our customers. You can have your own logo, your own background and themes applied. So here in login, I am providing my username. This username could be my AD username, my G Suite directory username, or any other directory if I am using. In case in your organization you do not have any directory, you can use OneLogin Cloud Directory as your centralized user repository. After clicking on continue, it is asking me for password. Let me enter my password here. And after that, let's see what happens is it is asking me to provide a multi-factor authentication. This is the extra layer of security I was talking about, that apart from your username password based authentication, you should have MFA enabled. So in this current case, I am using OneLogin Protect as the MFA factor for this. This is OneLogin proprietary application. I have installed it in my mobile. It is providing me a push notification as soon as I click on uh, approve, it will log me in. Alternatively, I can enter code as well on this from my OneLogin Protect app. So let me just show you that part. So I have entered the code and it should create my user session now. So this is the user portal look like. These are the application which I access frequently, and these all are the applications which are assigned to me. These applications are assigned to me on the basis of my role in the organization, and some of the applications are assigned to me due to some attribute on my profile. Say for example, this application I have access because I do some analytic work. So OneLogin provide you accesses of applications on the basis of role or attribute. So it supports RBAC and ABAC. So let's see how user experience look like in terms of accessing the application. I have clicked on one application and you can see that it logged me in seamlessly in the application with my own profile here. So one can think that if user is aware about this URL, user can go directly, or user may have bookmarked it and hit this URL. What will happen then? So here you can see application is showing me a sign in button. Let me click on it. And once I click on sign in page, it is actually redirecting me back to OneLogin. And here OneLogin is aware about the context that request is coming from this application. And this is how typically OneLogin monitor users activity. These logs can further transfer to UEBA or SIEM solutions to do further user behavior analytics or generating alerts, etc. This thing is typically achieved using SAML 2.0, OIDC, or other SSO protocols. OneLogin supports all standard SSO mechanisms. This was one of the examples I was planning to discuss today. Let me talk the second example. So other application I want to talk about is the remote machines. So we all are working from home and we need to access our VDIs. Our remote machines may be hosted in some data center or maybe in our offices. And how OneLogin behaves with this, let's see. So here you can see there is a remote machine configured for me. I have clicked on it, and you can see that OneLogin is asking me for MFA. In this scenario, it is typically known as a step-up authentication. I have received a push notification which I have approved. As soon as I have approved it, it has provided me with my remote connection. Here also you can notice that OneLogin is aware about the context. So let me enter my password here, and as soon as I have provided my password, my session for my remote machine is created successfully. So for this scenario also, one can think that user may be access this machine directly using remote connection. Say for example, Win52SE7BI80J gslabinstance.com is the machine here. Let me close this and see what happens if I directly go and try to do a remote desktop connection on this machine. So here you can notice it is the same machine, Win52SE7BI80J gslabinstance.com. Let's see what happened once I click on connect. It is asking me for password. Let me enter my password here, and you can see that it is throwing an error. So what is the error? Error is server is expecting an authentication method different from the one attempted. So here is how OneLogin is protecting your remote machines. The way OneLogin is integrated with your remote machine, that your default username password flow is not working. So this is the secured login which I was talking about. Here OneLogin is acting as your gatekeeper, where all your applications are behind OneLogin. User need to remember only one username and password. Admins also need to manage only one credential, and password policies at one place. A single identity can replicate at all the places, and you can have step-up authentications on your mission critical system, specifically applications like mail, which you are aware that users are accessing through their personal devices also. So let's move on to the next business challenge. One of the key pain points for most of our prospects with whom we are talking in recent times is increasing load on help desk and IT support teams. Due to remote working, people tend to forget to update their passwords on time, which result in a lot of help desk tickets. Irrespective of remote working, in general, this is the common scenario where we are getting a lot of help desk tickets which are around password resets. And most of you will agree with me that this is really a pain point. Many of you spend a lot of money just to meet your help desk tickets SLAs. And if a user logged down its account or forgot password, you do not want to increase the unproductive time, and you are willing to reset user's password as soon as possible. So let's see how OneLogin solves this challenge. So for OneLogin, let me launch OneLogin again in incognito to show you a feature of self-service. So self-service is a way of reducing your password reset calls. So like we have clicked on, or let me just show you again. So on the login page itself, like you can see, we have this forgot password link, and user can go directly here himself on and click on this and provide his user ID, which I believe user will not forget, and click on continue. And here what you can see that user will get a notification on the application which is configured for MFA, like OneLogin Protect or email or SMS or whatever user is using. And here, using your company password policy, user can reset his password himself. You can define any password policy as per your needs. So I will not go ahead and reset my password because I'm not intend to do it. Let me show you another important factor of self-service which OneLogin provides is actually through user profile. On the user profile, you can see that user have option of change password. So user can change his password himself as and when he wants. Apart from this, if user is moving from one device to another, he can revoke his registered OneLogin Protect app and reconfigure it. User also can go ahead himself and add for new second factor method. So it depends on the second factor configured for that organization. For example, for my organization, I have so these many factors configured. You may have additional factors as well, like say for example RSA token. So this is a really very good feature of self-service, and most of you will agree with me that in this is a really pain point. This single feature can help you reduce your cost significantly and provide you good ROI. So another area of concern which lot of our prospect has is multiple user repositories. Over period of time, they have created multiple user stores for different purposes, and that includes IT companies as well. So now even if they have LDAP now or AD, they are not able to consolidate their users at centralized point. And mind it, many of these users are duplicated in these different user repositories. It increase maintenance cost as well. And in continuation to our previous point, this also contributes to your IT support load because your support guys need to manage number of repositories. So let's see what OneLogin has for this. So far we have seen the user portal side. Let's move on to administration side. So OneLogin, like Suhail covered in one of his slide where he talked about centralized identity. OneLogin offers you directories through which you can integrate any directory in OneLogin cloud directory and make it your as a unified directory. So OneLogin supports integration with Active Directory, LDAP, G Suite, uh, your HRMS systems or any other source if you have, you can seamlessly integrate with OneLogin using CSV or tools like Identity Desk which GSLab provides you to have seamless integration with OneLogin. So that is how you can migrate all your different users from different repositories in OneLogin and unify these identities, and how user schema will look like that we can see under users. So let me quickly show you one user, maybe my user itself. So here you can see for my user that we have certain attributes which are default schema of OneLogin, say for example these attributes, and then we have custom fields. So you can define as many as custom field as you want, which may be required for you to map your all attributes coming from different directories or user sources and create a unified user record in your user repository. So that is how OneLogin help you in unifying your identities. Another challenge we are hearing is having a hybrid environment where you have mix of on-premise, cloud, and mobile apps. And it is really a challenge of implementing an IAM product. Many times our prospect tell us that they have evaluated number of IAM product, but maximum of them works well with set of applications only. We understand this completely. And GSLab has helped its number of customers in solving this challenge effectively by defining an IAM roadmap for them. Let me take you through some parts of it. First part of hybrid environment starts with directory. As we discussed in journey, company create a lot of user repositories. It could be databases, LDAP, some AD, and when they start moving into cloud, they may have G Suite as your one of the user repository or some other user repositories. So that we already discussed how using OneLogin Cloud Directory, you can unify all your cloud user repositories into the cloud and use OneLogin Cloud Directory as your centralized user repository. Next part of challenge starts with your on-premise applications. So on-premise applications can be categorized into two parts. First part is thick client, for example, SAP GUI, your VPN thick client. And second part is web applications, which are hosted in your on-premise, in your corporate boundaries. So let's discuss one by one. I will talk on thick client first. So I have talked to many companies which are using SAP thick client, and they do not have access to secure client subscription, which through which they can enable SAML based SSO to SAP GUI. So it becomes a challenge for them to how to integrate these kind of product uh, thick client in their IAM roadmap. So for solving this problem, typically there are two ways of integrating thick clients. One is using authentication APIs. So if your thick client is homegrown, you can use OneLogin authentication APIs to integrate with your thick client, and you can provide your OneLogin username and password for authenticating for these thick client. And second way is actually ESSO, which will give you a SSO field. So in typically enterprise ESSO, which we typically call it ESSO, credentials got auto-filled and then sessions got created. So for demo purpose, I will be showing you how it works. So GSLab provide a ESSO tool which get integrate with OneLogin seamlessly. Here you can see GSLab ESSO agent, and it's already logged in with Mrinal Srivastava, which is my OneLogin session running here. So there is no explicit login required. As soon as you log in into OneLogin in portal, it automatically creates your session, and it keeps syncing with OneLogin to be in sync with your OneLogin session running in browser. So here I will show you example through my VPN connection. So as soon as I clicked on it, you can see it auto-filled my credential and a session is got created for me. So this is how ESSO work and solve your thick client SSO problem, including your SAP, which is the pain point for many applications. So as my VPN connection is there now, let's talk about on-prem web applications. I will give you an example of ERP Next. This is the application which is hosted in premise of my corporate boundaries. It is a web-based application. So as soon as I click on this, you will see that it is actually initiate a multi-factor authentication. So I am showing you that you can actually enable step-up authentication or two-factor authentication on your on-prem applications as well. So we have seen a number of times how a push notification works. Say if you have not received a push notification, what you can do here, you can click on resend push notification and it will resend you a push notification. Alternatively, in case your push notification is not working, you can enter code manually here. For example, let me just show you. And this code you can get through your OneLogin Protect mobile app. And then it will create a session for you seamlessly. So say if I'm not connected to internet, how I will log in. So this is how using codes you log in. So here you can see that this application is actually, you can see is an IP, which is internal IP of my organization. And that is how we can do SSO to on-prem web applications. Next level of challenge with hybrid scenario is that is fine that we have solved the SSO challenge, but what about user management? How I will manage my user management for my on-prem applications, my cloud applications and all. So let's see how user provisioning will work. So let me jump to the administration part of it. So in administration, we have already touched on how user works, how application works. So OneLogin supports 7,000 plus applications out of the box. So we will see how user provisioning will work on your on-premise applications as well as on cloud applications. So let me take example one by one. I will start with a cloud application first, maybe for example, say Salesforce. Let me just log in into it so that we can see the differences. So here you can see that SSO is working seamlessly for my Salesforce account. And as soon as I clicked on it, my session is created with my profile here. So now what I will show you how provisioning works. So let me create a new user on OneLogin. So you can see that this user can be coming through some directory, or you are creating this user directly on OneLogin cloud directory. So I am providing basic details of my user. Inamdar. Let me keep this field blank, which is not required for now. All right, let me save this. So as soon as my user is created, you can see here, I can go to the applications and assign applications to my user. So let me assign, assignment can be on role basis. So I have one role here called sales. I am assigning this role to my user Monica. And before that, we can actually go here and see whether there is any user called Monica Inamdar in Salesforce or not. So let's go to user. And in users, we can go Monica Inamdar, it would be in I. So here you can see that there is no Monica Inamdar currently present. So as soon as I assign this role and save this, so as per this role, Monica Inamdar should get access to Salesforce application. And currently, since her account is not there, so before providing the access, her account should get created in Salesforce application. So here you can see that a provisioning request is created for her and it is pending right now because we have implemented a approval workflow here. So that is how you can have approval workflows also implemented in OneLogin. As soon as I approve it, my provisioning request will go to Salesforce, and once user is created in Salesforce, it will be marked as green and provisioned. So you can see that provisioning in OneLogin is real time. It's not something that you have created provisioning request now and your accounts will be created down the line half an hour, 1 hour or 2 hours. It get created immediately, and that we will verify here in Salesforce now. So let me just refresh this to see if our new user is created or not. And here you go, you can see that Monica Inamdar, which was not there earlier, is created now. Similarly, let me show you for this application also. This is our on-prem application. Like you can see, let's go to employees and see. So there is no currently Monica Inamdar user is available. So let me assign one more role to Monica, which is for demo purpose I have created. So ERP next on-prem application. I have assigned this to Monica. As soon as I have saved it, a provisioning request will go for this application. Now you will be wondering how OneLogin is doing provisioning to on-prem applications. We will go to that part as well. So here you can see it is provisioned. So let's go and check here. Let me refresh this page. And Monica is there. So you can see your real-time provisioning are happening not only on your cloud application or SaaS application, which you typically see, it is happening on your on-premise applications as well. So how this is typically happened, it is happening in integration with one of the GS Lab tool called Identity Desk. So OneLogin integrate with Identity Desk to do provisioning on on-prem applications, on web applications, or all other applications which are not supported in OneLogin through Scheme APIs. So let me just quickly give you a quick glimpse about Identity Desk as well. So this is how Identity Desk looks like. I need to provide my password here. And this is the Identity Desk portal where you have a quick overview about existing users, admins, and all. And this new user which we have created should be there also created in here. So you can see Monica Inamdar is created and active and enabled. So like you've seen in the experience, there is no need for you to know about Identity Desk and do anything there. OneLogin work with Identity Desk seamlessly. You not need to manage two applications. Integration is in such a way that it solves your all problems. So this is all about hybrid thing. I can provide you suggestions, and I have covered your on-premise applications, your thick client applications, your SSO using ESSO tool or OneLogin, and then how to manage your user using user provisioning rules and all those things. So that's all from my side. Over to you, Suhail. Thank you, guys.
So here comes the exciting bit. We've got some prizes to give away. So basically what we're doing is we are running a raffle. And to qualify for this raffle, you will need to send me or Mrinal an email to see a full-fledged OneLogin demo. The two lucky winners will get Flipkart vouchers. And also we are giving away 5 Uber Eats vouchers so that you can enjoy a nice meal with your family, given that we're all working from home. So again, to be a part of this raffle, you will need to send either me or Mrinal an email. Our contact details are below, and you need to send us an email before the 3rd of July. Uh, we're also giving away, apart from the 7 winners, GS Lab is also offering a free 2-hour IAM consulting service for your organization, and basically assess what your IAM landscape looks like. So, hey, these are some really exciting prizes to be won, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. All right, so let's go through the Q&As. We've got a fair bit of questions come through the chat. One of the questions is that their primary source of truth is G Suite. And the question is, how is OneLogin different from Google's identity platform? So let me take this one. So OneLogin actually has a very nice integration with G Suite's directory, which you saw earlier. So we can actually go back and integrate with Google's directory. And as a matter of fact, at OneLogin, we use G Suite ourselves for email. So going back to your question, OneLogin is a full-fledged cloud-based identity and access management solution, and that's our bread and butter. Single sign-on and MFA form our core capabilities. And as a customer, you will get out-of-the-box functionalities and capabilities, things like single sign-on, integrations with 7,000 plus applications, multi-factor authentication. All of these are out of the box rather than you having to spend time using a developer platform through APIs from Google. So with that, onboarding users becomes very easy. Rolling out new application just takes minutes. So there's a huge range of capabilities which OneLogin offers. And we, as a matter of fact, complement Google Suite as a directory, and we have a lot of customers that use G Suite as their primary source of truth, and have that integrated with OneLogin, and eventually use G Suite as a primary source of truth. So yeah, these are just some of the few capabilities which OneLogin has out of the shelf. The second question is, does OneLogin how does OneLogin support bespoke on-premise applications that sit behind the firewall? Mrinal, do you want to take this one?
Sure, Sahil. Actually, it is a very relevant question. I hear this a lot of time. Many a times in my experience, we found that these homegrown applications are legacy applications and using some database as user repository. And then in the journey, companies implement LDAP, AD, and now they have some cloud-based applications as well. So they end up in having a mix of applications which are mostly heavy on-premise side. This is where OneLogin ahead of others. Or if I say, we as partners are ahead of others. OneLogin's cloud directory enable these kind of companies to unify their user repositories by integrating all these distributed and many times duplicate users at one place. Homegrown applications can easily migrate to new way of authentication using OneLogin authentication APIs, which can be OIDC API as well, or customer can use GSLab ESSO tool if they have thick clients. OneLogin Password Vault provide SSO2 applications where code cannot be changed and applications are web-based. And customer can also easily manage their users lifecycle management using OneLogin's Scheme API-based provisioning for modern applications and GSLab Identity Desk for on-premise applications and other web applications or internet applications. So this is how you can secure your on-prem environment using OneLogin. I hope it answers. Over to you, Suhail.
Thank you, Mrinal. So I can see there's one more question here. Does OneLogin learn the user's behavior when it comes to their authentication? Sure. So OneLogin has smart factor capabilities built in. So what that means is we use a combination of machine learning and artificial intelligence to really analyze a broad range of inputs. And those inputs could be the location that the user has logged in from, the device, and there's many other attributes which determine the risk of that behavior. So based on that, MFA can either be suppressed or challenged. Sometimes it's not about limiting access, but denying it altogether. So we have the capability to deny the access. On top of this, what also OneLogin can do is we can do a compromised credential check. So when users attempt to reset their password, and if the password is weak, which means if the password was hello world or welcome123, which is essentially a compromised password from a large-scale data breach, we would challenge the user to reset the password with the password policies determined by the IT teams. So these are some of the core capabilities as well when it comes to really enhancing the user behavior when it comes to the authentication. So hopefully this answers your question. I can see there is another 3 or 4 questions now. What we'll do is we are running out of time, so we will get back to you on email with an answer to each of those questions. So thanks again for taking the time out of your daily schedules and joining us for today's webinar. And Mrinal, thanks very much for joining us as a guest speaker.
Sure. Thanks, Suhail. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye.